Well, I have been telling you, I can't believe how excited I am about this series. I read this whole book when Renee and I were on vacation up in Maine, and I said, I'm not going to work while we're on vacation, but in the airports and on the airplane, you know, this is going to be what and I finished the whole thing, just in the airports and on the airplane, knowing what travel is today. Maybe that's not a big deal, but it was so good. It was so good, and I've learned so much from it already. And as with all our series here at Spiritual Soul Center, what I hope is what I have to say to you and what you hear shakes you up a little bit and makes you think. And instead of being like, oh, that was nice, and you walk out the door, like, I want you to take it with you. I want you to take it with you so it's something you can use in your daily life, so you can say, man, I really need this in my life. I really want to put this into practice in my life, and this series is no different. You know, that, oh, it's nice and leave it on Sundays, not so much what you get here at the Soul Center. You know, and you don't get the rules by which to live either, but some ideas and spiritual principles that you can use in your life. I can tell you that everything you need and everything we need to understand how to pursue our Dharma is included in the Bhagavad Gita. Everything is in there that we need. And what Stephen Cope does is he brings that ancient text, that 2,000-year-old text, and he brings it and uses contemporary stories so that we can latch on to these ideas and actually use them. That's what it's about. How many have read the Bhagavad Gita? A couple of you. Yeah. It's not something you read and put back down, is it? It's kind of like the Bible. That's what it is. So let me give you kind of a synopsis of where we begin with the Bhagavad Gita. The Gita expounds an unequaled method for bringing forth Dharma. And Dharma is, for this series, our vocation, or our sacred duty, or our holy purpose. Like what we are here to be, what we have incarnated to be. That's what it is. That's the lesson. That's what this is about. At the beginning of the story, which the Gita is a story, it's a poem really, Arjuna is paralyzed by doubt. He has tried to live a good life up to this point. He has tried to live out his warrior dharma. That's his dharma, to be a warrior as best he can. But at the beginning of our story, the world has momentarily crushed him. Luckily for Arjuna, Krishna is disguised as a charioteer, and he becomes Arjuna's spiritual teacher, his psychoanalyst, his coach, his goad, his mentor. But we, the reader, know that Krishna is actually none other than God. As the tale opens, our friend Arjuna has collapsed onto the floor of his chariot. He is undone by the doubts and conflicts he faces about his own actions, his own calling, on the field of a great battle that is about to be engaged. And he says, what am I really called to do in this circumstance, he says to Krishna. Do I fight this battle or not? How do I act in such a way that I do not destroy my own soul and the soul of the world? How do I act in such a way that I fulfill my Dharma? Whew. Have you ever felt that way? Do you know what you're here to do and be? Have you ever felt conflicted? This Dharma thing is a big deal. It is exclusively and uniquely what you are made to be. But we struggle with that sometimes. Or maybe we don't think we know what our Dharma is. But this is what we're here to do, to discover and uncover what I'm made for. And that's what in this series I hope we're able to do, each of us. Like I said, it's already called me to question some of my actions, having gotten through the book. Because the Gita is really a book of action. Prayer and meditation are great and an important part of spiritual life. But this book and this wisdom is about action. The man of action. Of us being, remember when we did the series on yoga? And I talked about karma yoga being the yoga of action. Because most of us in the Western world, that's where we are. Most of us are not sitting in an ashram somewhere. We have not decided to pursue life as a monk. We are in action, we are working, and we are engaging in life in action. And that's what it's about. So it's about putting wisdom in action. Here's what Stephen Cope says about the Gita teaching with regards to this. He says, people actually feel happiest and most fulfilled when meeting the challenges of their dharma, of our spiritual, what did I just say? Of our dharma, of our work to do, of the thing that's uniquely ours to do. We meet that challenge in the world. We bring highly concentrated effort to some compelling activity for which we have a true calling. Are you hearing that? Fulfillment happens not in retreat from the world, but in advance and profound engagement in the world. The 2,000-year-old Bhagavad Gita brings us a series of surprising principles for living an optimal life and for transforming skillful action into spiritual practice. That's what we're here to do. So here's the invitation. Here's the invitation. He says, come with me then. Bring your fears and your neuroses and doubts. Do not leave that excellent fodder behind. Bring your desperation and your most ardent wishes for a full life. Gather around the fire with the rest of us ordinary human beings as we investigate a not so far-fetched possibility of becoming fully alive. If you were here a couple weeks ago, remember that? The Dance at Life, West Side Story, the sharks and the jets. Yeah. Bring it on! Oh my gosh, that's what we're here to do. But what happens is that we're paralyzed by fear. So let me again go back before I launch into my part of this, is to give you the story, set the stage for where Arjuna is. You see, this warrior, I mean, he is made to be a warrior. There is no other choice for him other than to be a warrior. Yet he's caught in this battle and on this battlefield, and he is having a doubt about his engagement. They're in this kingdom of Kuru. There is now this generations-old conflict, you'll get this, in this royal family. It's between the forces of light and the forces of dark. Of course it is in this ancient poem. Between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. And the world is just in chaos. Can you relate? It's just in chaos. It seems like the darkness and the light, they're just at opposite ends, for sure. And he sees the breakdown of that harmony in the opposition, in the forces of darkness. But he also sees the breakdown of harmony in his own family, in the forces of light. And when Krishna drives his chariot as the charioteer onto the battlefield between these two groups of people, Arjuna realizes that the people he sees on the side of the darkness are the same brothers and cousins and uncles and sons as he sees on the other side. That all of us have been corrupted into this world that's no longer in peace and harmony. And that's where his doubt comes in. He's like, how can I fight this battle and kill my kin? Like, how can I do that? He's in severe doubt. Even though he knows it's his sacred duty to act as a warrior. And he cries out, conflicting sacred duties confound my reason. He can't figure it out. And he sits down and he cries out and he drops down and is on the floor of his chariot whining. He doesn't know what to do. He's caught in this dilemma. Is it worse that I fight and kill them? Is that what it's about? Or do we let them conquer us? Is that worse? And so he decides, I cannot fight, and he drops down to the chariot. Well, have you ever felt paralyzed with doubt yourself? Have you ever not known which decision to make? Have you ever thought, oh my God, I don't know. IDK, we have IDK, right? How many times? I don't know. We don't even have to say IDK. Capital I, capital D, capital K. Somebody isn't laughing, they're not on Facebook. That would be me. I had to ask somebody what that meant. Be paralyzed by doubt. It's really not fear. It's really not fear. It's really something even more sinister. It's that underlying, simmering thing. It may sprout from fear, but it's doubt. not knowing. Stephen Cope says this, he says, doubt is the central affliction of all men and women of action. It's our central affliction, not knowing what to do, not knowing what choice to make. So on your soul card, you see that, right? Did you read your soul card? Everybody puts it in their pocket. That's good. Take it home. Remember to read what's on it. It suggests that what happens that we're doing is putting up our folding chair at the intersection of doubt. That we're putting it up and we're parking it between, or at this intersection of not knowing what to do. That's what we're doing. And here it is. You know I have another problem. And this is what it's about. We plant ourselves at the intersection of doubt. We have one foot on one side, one foot on the other side, and we are immobilized. We don't know which way to turn. We are paralyzed by doubt. We are maybe even feel what our Dharma is, but we can't move on it because we're right here. And that intersection line goes right down the middle. In fact, sometimes we might even get kind of comfortable here. But you know folding chairs, they're really not comfortable. You know, they are for a while. But it's not comfortable being here. But we park there at the intersection of doubt. That's a pretty good metaphor there, a great demonstration of what it's out, of what it's about. Sitting in that folding chair, not knowing which decision to make. Well, Stephen Cope describes a few types of doubt and some examples that I want to share with you, because you might be thinking, well, I don't really have any doubt about my life. I feel pretty darn good right about now. But like I said, doubt is insidious. It's hiding right under there. And the first type of doubt that he describes is the fear of closing a door. Have you ever had that doubt? The fear that if I make this decision over here, if I remove my folding chair, if I pick it up and put it over here, that represents closing that door, and that door will never open again. The fear of closing a door keeps us in doubt. I'll relay a story to you. It was a while ago, probably in the early 2000s, and my partner Renee was working at a local HVAC contractor. She was not really happy at the job. I was less happy at the job than she was because I didn't like how they were treating her, right? And I used to tell her all the time. That wasn't very helpful of me, I'm quite sure. But one day, she went in there, and she was in a meeting with her boss, and she told him, without planning, that she was quitting, that she was going to quit. And she was going to pursue her dream, something that she was made for. Those of you who know her know this about her. She was made for, she started her own pet sitting business. She quit her job. She closed that door. She had enough already. She had enough of what that was about. She closed the door and started her own pet sitting business. Wow. That takes some courage to follow your Dharma. It didn't look like maybe the best decision. People say, well, what about insurance? Well, you had a steady paycheck. Well, this, you know, all these things tick them off, right? But living your Dharma sometimes involves closing that door to get up out of that chair. To contrast that, when I had my church in Durham back in 2013, I still kept my job doing construction administration. Actually, no, I was the energy manager at that time. I couldn't quite get out of the chair. I wanted to be sure that I had enough money. So I kept one foot right over here as energy manager, and I kept another foot over here as minister. I was kind of divided, can you see? I was divided. I was never quite able to commit to the Dharma, to the calling that I had to be a minister. So I stuck in that chair for quite a while. Anybody relate to that? I was afraid to close the other door. I was afraid to close the other door. So think about that. Does that make any sense in your life? The willingness to follow your Dharma, your vocation, the purpose, your holy purpose, versus where you are right now. There's another description that Stephen Cope talks about, and it's the denial of Dharma. Some of you, and some of us might believe, well, we don't really have a calling. I'm just a worker bee, I'm behind the scenes. I don't really have a calling. That's as paralyzing as not knowing. This idea that you don't have a Dharma, like you're not here for a holy purpose. That's just not true. Remember, I told you this story a while back. There was a bus driver in New York City who was an opera singer. And every day on his bus, picking up people around New York City, he sings opera. I mean, beautifully, beautifully. And people would say to him, you don't belong on this bus, you belong on the stage somewhere. He said, no, I belong exactly here. I have an audience every day. He was living his Dharma. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be out in front of everybody. Okay, your Dharma is where you feel you are living the life, you are fulfilled. It doesn't have to be big. In everybody else's eyes, it's big for you because it's where you belong. So don't deny that just because it doesn't seem dramatic enough for you. Yeah. The thing is about that, and what this gentleman showed us, is he was living his Dharma consciously. He was admitting to himself this was exactly where he should be. Some of us are living our Dharma, we just haven't admitted that it's our Dharma. Maybe it's that we take care of people. We're always the one out there taking care of someone. Maybe your Dharma is to be that exceptional nurse that you are. To be that exceptional friend that you are. To be that exceptional hairdresser that you are. To be that exceptional teacher that you are. And not say, oh, I only do this. I only do this. I'll tell you what, Brooke, I feel really good when my hair's looking good. No? She does a great job. She's always smiling when I get there. She washes my hair really nice. I don't know if that's your Dharma or not, but to me, it's really good. It's not a dramatic position. She's not in the newspaper all the time. But that doesn't matter. What matters is how you feel. What matters is how you feel. And then sometimes our Dharma and us getting off course and sitting in that chair are about just our aim being a little bit off. Our aim is just a little bit off. For instance, you're doing something you're really good at, and people think you're good at it. They tell you all the time, oh, you're really good at this. But something in you doesn't match. It doesn't match. And so you're afraid, you're like, well, I'm really good at this. Maybe this is my Dharma. Maybe this is it. But it doesn't feel like it is. It's the way I feel right now about being on our HOA board at Summerlin Falls. Renee wanted me to do it, and I agreed. Just, she said to me, "You're the one for this." Because, yes, she did. She told me. We need this stuff done, and you are the perfect person to do this. And she's right. I am. The background that I have, and I know about irrigation and landscaping and roofing and all these things in my life as a construction administrator. And so she's right. She's right. But you know what? As far as being my Dharma, the aim is off. I'm doing it and people appreciate it. And it's good work. And I spent like hours and hours getting ready for this meeting next week about budget that probably no one else spent any time on at all. Because that's me. But my aim is off. It's not quite what fulfills me. You know what fulfills me. You all know that already, right here. This is what fulfills me. This is what I want to do. And in order to get out of this dang chair, I can't be distracted by the things that are just a little bit off aim. I've got to get rid of this chair of doubt and put my focus on what it is, what I am here to be, what I'm here to do, what you are here to be, and what you are here to do. So, we're stuck in the folding chair at the intersection. So now what? Now what? Well, let me read you this. Let's go back to Arjuna, okay? He's a great character, by the way, because he represents everything about us this doubt thing about us, I should say. And he's stuck. and he doesn't know what to do. And he says, if I can't figure out how to act, I'll do nothing at all. He says that to Krishna. But he doesn't feel good about his decision. This is familiar territory for most of us, right? This is familiar territory. Krishna immediately points out the problem with this do-nothing strategy, that inaction is actually action. Inaction is actually an action. It's choosing not to act. Arjuna doesn't want to hear this because he thinks he has it figured out. I'm just going to lay at the bottom of my chariot. I'm just going to sit at this intersection of doubt, and I'm not going to act at all. He turns away from Krishna. He takes a deep breath and lets out a sigh. He stretches out his legs and slowly hauls himself to the side of the chariot, where he dismounts, he dusts himself off. He walks around the chariot, he takes the hold of this chair, he walks around, he's looking at it, and he's surveying the battlefield. And finally, he walks back to the large wooden vehicle and sits down on the driver's intricately adorned bench, motioning to Krishna to come and join him. Okay, he says with resignation, so I cannot not act. I guess I see that. But then, how do I act? How do I know how to act? How do I know what is the right thing to do? Isn't that the question we have about ourselves when we're in that place? Now, how do I know what's the right thing to do? Here's the first step today in this series, and it's simply the willingness to act. The willingness, the recognition that it's time. That it's time to pick up the chair and set it aside. For this week, it's just being willing to do that. To being willing and open enough to consider setting it aside. That's it. That's the first step. It's simply saying this: show me. Because my right-hand man, my charioteer, Krishna, is God itself. God itself. It's simply surrendering to that and saying, listen, I don't know how to do this myself. I don't know what the right choice is. So what I'm saying is, show me. Just show me. Just show me which way to go. Just show me what decision to make. Let me open up to the possibility that I can act in the fullness of who I am here to be and what I am here to be. That's it. And in these next weeks, we'll learn together what the 4 pillars are of engaging in life from all that I came here to be. Yes? Yes. So as we go into meditation this afternoon, let's maybe picture that folding chair that you have camped right at the intersection of doubt. It's okay. Bring your folding chair next week. Like he said, bring your neuroses, bring your doubts, bring all this stuff that's holding you back. Bring it all with you. There is nothing too much for God, for Krishna, to help you get through. So as you breathe in and out, maybe you imagine that folding chair. Maybe you imagine your feet planted on either side of that line, running directly beneath it. And I want you to sit there and look at the battlefield around you. The maybe, and the yes, and the no, and the IDK. All of it. Look around the battlefield. Look at your feet planted right there. And decide during this meditation that you are simply willing to act. That you are willing to make a decision. That your prayer is simply this: show me. Show me.
initiative are close teammates, and a team without desire seems less motivated, and the initiative begins to procrastinate. Desire always seems to pass the test of time, just like success achieved is a conditioning kept believed in one's mind to feel all the time, with a passion undescribed to define. And desire simmers, it simmers like embers burning. It does not have to rage to display what is meant to be. A desire started accomplishes. A desire started rarely does not end to flicker out before it blazes on the scene with produced results to the silence for those minds in doubt.
So I invite you to bring it in and out to come back into this place and time, willing, simply willing to act on that desire, all